Make sure that this is rotated precisely. Maybe put one there, one there. Maybe a couple just here. Like that. And also, yeah, I'm going to leave it like that at the moment. Now, another thing I might want to add. Say I want to add some dust. Well, you could do a similar kind of thing. I'm going to add dust to the main panel just here. I'm going to add a fill layer, and this layer is going to be what my dust is going to look like. So again, with the dust, I don't want it to have any kind of metalness or any kind of normalness, but I do want it to have a bit of height. So because I'm actually going to raise the height a little bit of this, and I'm going to change the color of the dust, although I can change that later, to be a kind of dullish kind of yellow maybe. And dust is like almost, well, dust is completely rough. Has the effect of making surfaces look completely matte. To apply that dust in a sort of realistic way, I can see some bits I need to fill over here. I'm going to use the smart masks, because smart masks give you things like different flavors of dust, right? Dust soft, dust stained, etc. I'm going to try dust soft. So you just drag and drop that straight onto the top. And that's going to put the dust, it's going to sort of internally figure out the dust is going to collect more on flatter surfaces facing up and in nooks and crannies. It's a subtle effect, but the more subtle, the more, yeah, if you can see how it adds a little bit onto the corner just coming around here. Sort of darkens it and splodges it out a little bit. I can go back into the actual dust and change this to be, you know, make it super, you know, gross and sort of yellow like that, so it's really obvious. Or make it something a bit more realistic, like that. Now I want to add something, I want to stencil something onto this. So on top of everything, I'm going to create I'm going to create my own paint kind of layer. So I'm going to create one fill layer, and I'm going to take off metalness, normal. I'm going to leave height and put height up a little bit and make this red. And this is going to be paint glossy. So I'm actually going to make this one quite shiny. Like that. I'm going to duplicate it. And this one's going to be paint rough. But the only difference here is I'm going to make it a lot rougher. Like that. And again, I'm going to use that fill. And I'm going to use a grunge. I'm not really bothered which one. Like that. Gives me a nice kind of look there. Quite like that. But I want to use this paint. I want to literally kind of use it using a stencil. So I'm going to select them both. Group them. Call this paint. And add a black mask so it disappears. I'm going to snap to the orthographic. Now what I want to do now is use a stencil in here. So in alphas, about halfway down, you've got a bunch of text ones. Right, so I'm going to choose one like this. And I'm going to drag and drop it onto... Actually, no, I can't do it like that. I'm going to... let me just think. I'm going to use a paint, sorry. And that's going to go onto here. So the stencil starts showing up. So I can type in here anything I like. Like that. I can control where this is going to go. I can even change like the justification and stuff like that. So it's quite handy. And now when I paint into this, it's going to reveal what's underneath. It's even going to emboss it slightly because I gave that paint a certain amount of height. I can switch off my stencil now. So it looks like the paint's actually sitting a little bit above it. Right, I'm going to call it a day there, right? So I'm going to export this into Maya. Export textures. I want to export them at... let's see if this still remembers my little... Yeah, I think it does. Still got my my own preset. Remember, you can make your own presets where you can get rid of stuff you're not using. So I want to change this to higher resolution, 2048. Very, very important, remember. Browse to your actual project. And then export it. Shouldn't take too long. Yeah, brilliant. So back into Maya now. This should be fairly straightforward. Create a new material. Standard. Make sure our weight is at 1. And then start loading these textures in. Now, thankfully, I won't have to browse for these textures because they're all going to be sat there. So that's obviously another good reason for making sure you're using your projects correctly. So base color comes in, you don't have to change anything. Metalness. You have to tell it to be raw, and alpha is luminance. And then roughness. Similar thing. And then we want to create a bump map. So again, tab and then type bump. You want the first one. Connect it up. The type we want is tangent space normals. And we want to put our bump map into the bump value. And it's actually the normal map that gets loaded in there. And again, that gets loaded in as a raw. But by default, it would have automatically have ticked that for us. Put that onto Arnold to see what it looks like at the moment. Yeah, okay. So that's all. That's the shader made. Now we just need to drag and drop it onto our object. There we go. Cool little sci-fi paneling, right? It didn't really take long to make. Now, let's add some light to it. I'm going to rotate this around like this. Move this into position. I'm going to put lights on so I can see the actual effect it has. I'm going to go to front view actually because I want this to be kind of dead on center point just there. Oops, let's see what the light looks like. Yeah, and I want to sort of make this a kind of strip light like that. Maybe move it down, but I will have to do a render to see what that looks like because I can't trust the viewport to give me the exact right intensity. Yeah, this is way too dark. So I'm going to put this up to something more like 6, like that. Yeah, I'll go with that. But then I also want to duplicate this light. Put it up just here. Maybe rotate it a little bit like that. And I want to fine tune the intensity of this light. So it's probably going to be too bright now. Oh, that's actually quite a nice soft kind of look. Right. Now you could select your panel and your two lights. You could group them together. You can ignore this kind of warning just here. Go to group, change the pivot point of the group so that it sits right at the end just here. Hold down V. Now I could duplicate the whole thing. And holding down V, I can snap it so it perfectly matches up with this one just here. Now if I hit Shift D a few times, Maya begins to run out. It says, I'm not even going to bother trying to calculate the light in the viewport now. I'm going to put on that kind of thing like that. And let's have a look to see what this looks like in the render view. So automatically you're getting some nice visual complexity, and you can see how quick it is to build those textures in Substance and make what looks like fairly complicated science fiction-y kind of base kind of wall. It's got all those nice normal maps in there, giving you the vents and stuff like that. I'm going to put 3D manipulation on. And also, because I created the lighting to work with one of them, I knew that it was going to work when I duplicated it. So, that's that. Right, let me stop the recording.